Hi everyone, welcome back to Get Ready for University. Today's video is something that I would have loved to have had when I was doing my revision for my GCSEs and A-levels, and that is revision techniques and exam stress. So let's get into it. One of the questions that I've been asked to answer in this video is how I feel when exams come up. And anyone that knows me knows I am the worst when it comes to exams. I feel the pressure, and I think the main reason for that is because I know that I work hard, and I think the thought of failing really does terrify me, because obviously I know I've put the work in and I don't want to let my parents down. This semester at university I have 4 exams coming up, and they are brain and mind, oh my god, brain and mind, research methods, applied psychology and learning to be happy. There we go, that's a good start. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys what sort of revision techniques I use and how I cope with exam stress. The first thing I do before I go home for the holidays at the end of every term is make sure my notes are organised. I usually either write my notes and then type them up on the computer, or I take my laptop to lectures and I type them out there and then. After every lecture I come back home in the evening and I just double check my notes, I type them up again, make sure that they all make sense and that they're clear. Then I organise them into little folders on my laptop so that I know where everything is, and when I come to revise that topic I know where to go, and that makes it so stress-free in the sense that I'm not rushing around trying to find notes and not sure if I've got them and all of that sort of stuff, so I would definitely recommend doing that. Another thing that I like to do is a revision timetable. I like to have a set structure in my life, so definitely making a timetable of saying what time you're going to start revision during the day, what sort of revision you're going to be doing, what module, what subject. It definitely is helpful. One technique that I've started using at university is planning out essays, and the reason I say that is because for one module in particular, our applied psychology, we've been given all the questions that we could be asked in the exam, and they're all essay questions, short essay questions. So we've got 12 to remember and plan, and 4 that will come up. So what I've been doing is definitely writing out what I would put for each question, and then just keep going over it, keep reading it, just so that if that question does come up in the exam, I know. However, for A-level we obviously didn't have that because we don't know what the questions are until we're sat in the exam hall. So what I used to do was look back on past paper questions and try and build up a plan for all of them, and then check them with the mark scheme that you can easily find online, and then see if there's any gaps in my knowledge or any other bits that I could have improved on and that sort of stuff. I think that is really beneficial, especially because it gets you learning the structure for an essay. Another revision technique that I like to use is drawing diagrams, and the reason I like that is because they're visual representations of what you need to know, and you can colour code them, you can label everything. So I have here, don't laugh, but I have, for my brain and mind revision notes, I have actually drawn a brain with all 4 of the lobes that we need to know for the exam. Each colour represents different lobes that we have in our brain, and then I've labelled what each section of the brain is, and then which lobe is what, which I think is really helpful. And then under here I've written just some useful notes just about each section, which I think is very helpful. And the reason I like doing that is sometimes I stick these up on my walls in my bedroom and stuff like that, because sometimes you're going to sit there, whether you're on your bed or you're sitting at your desk, and you're just going to daydream, and sometimes I just end up looking at those posters and just reading them, and although it doesn't feel like revision, it technically is, and it does actually help me, because sometimes when I'm sitting in an exam room I think, okay, what's on my bedroom wall? Where does it say that? And it does help me remember things, which I think is a really useful tip, guys. Okay guys, I've saved you my favourite revision technique for last. I always think best for last, and that is flashcards. I love the idea of flashcards. I've used them since GCSE, and I've used them throughout A-level, and I still use them today at university. And I love them because I think, you know, you're not sitting out writing all the time, you're not staring at a computer screen, and I think they're really fun to use with whether it's a family member or someone that you're studying with for an exam. And the way they work, if you've never used them before, is you write on the front of the card a question or a key term, and then you flip it over and you write the answer to that question or the definition of that key term on the other side. And I think these are great because, you know, you could just sit there and read the question and then think of the answer, and then if you don't know the answer, what I do is I put them in a different pile so that I know that they're the ones that I'm struggling with the most and they're the ones that I'll focus on. I think these are a really good revision technique because it doesn't get boring in a way, because usually if I'm writing out an essay or you know, I'm just reading the information or rewriting the information, I do get a bit bored. Whereas with this, if you shuffle the cards, you don't know what's going to come up next. It keeps you on your toes in a way, and I definitely think that is important, because then you know the information like that, and if you don't, then you know which ones you need to revise, and I think it's very helpful. So that is it for today's video, guys. I hope it was helpful for you. I definitely wish I had something like this when I was doing my GCSEs and A-levels. I wish you all the best for your exams. You will all be fine, you'll nail it, and we'll see you in the future and get ready for university.